the sleepy god. 10:33. Winter. I've only been in the north a few weeks, but it feels like months. When we arrived in the north to begin with, we came not knowing really what to expect, but initially the war in the north went in our favour. We had the Godfrey touch. Everything we touched turned to death, but it seems the imprecise art of instance battles has been our undoing, and what goes up must come down. Apparently I keep fucking this part up. I will do this for geographic purposes to tell you where exactly shit is taking place. So returning to the ongoing conflict between Bloodpact and her enemies, it seems the recent tides of war have settled around a few specific claims. Way down south we've got Berserkov. It's the main Bloodpact stronghold in Server 8, and our blue friends seem determined to destroy it. Back up in the north, the war is offensive for our part. Bloodpact have been making further advances on the La Madragura claim east of Freyheim, as well as a vassal claim by Ordin de Calatrava. These are the battles I have participated in. So, picking up where we left off, I said I wanted to take a closer look at the battle from last time because it factors into later battles. So, a brief explanation of what happened. The infantry in its entirety was mounted. This was to facilitate a rush to the totem and preventing the enemy from setting up defences. It didn't matter though, since the enemy got there first. But the order didn't filter down to the Templar infantry that we'd abandoned the rush. So the Templars lost 3 men, including our commander, immediately, which at the time was half of our complement. I thought at this point the battle was fucked. But when we moved back up the hill, I could see archers firing on them with basic impunity. I don't know how much damage the archers did, but I suspect quite a lot. Since when the timer ran down and we were forced to push, their cavalry interrupted our advance, but we still got into them and, well, you know the rest. There were no fancy tactics involved. Our cavalry won the fight outside the defences and our infantry did sufficient enough damage that when the cavalry dismounted, they just had to mop up. The fact that our infantry had already taken a beating, yet more or less won the fight for the cavalry is odd, because I've not seen this happen since. I've not seen an offensive battle on our part break down into a slugfest where we won. You see, these damn defences have become the bane of our existence. From what I can tell, most battles seem to boil down to who puts themselves in the better position. It's the initial movements that happen before any engagement. So now I'm going to run through some examples of IBs where I think it was the movement that killed us. The next battle I fought was on the same claim and subsequently the same field. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Unlucky for us, Blue aren't retarded. Rather than heading straight for the totem this time, they moved to a hill far away from the totem and held position. We fortified ourselves on a hill overlooking the totem, and we stared at each other, waving our willies in each other's faces. Then some of their archers moved into the totem, and our cavalry took the bait. Their cavalry closed, and poof went our horsemen. Their infantry advanced uninhibited, and we died. Whether or not it was deliberate, they outfoxed us pretty good. Both of their units came down on one of our units and crushed it, and then they did the same to the other unit. You see what I'm saying? It was divide and conquer. It was actually quite clever. So, yeah, okay. So then the next battle, same claim, same field, only there's snow now. We moved up the hill, built our defences, and they built theirs on the totem site. Strange, this didn't work the first time. Both units advanced on the totem site with the intention of pushing the infantry inside. I thought at the time it was odd they were letting this happen again, but they did it for a reason. A very good reason. See if you can spot why. Did you see it? I didn't see it the first time round. Lance, 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 and Lance. They dismounted their cavalry.
Clever girl.
They overwhelmed us. We brought an abundance of cavalry to that fight, but they nullified it by just not fighting it and destroying our infantry inside the square first. Fun fact, our cavalry actually thought they were winning. The fact is, they let our cavalry win, they didn't care. So simple, yet so effective. Clever bastards. So it seems you either have to get inside the defences and dominate them, or don't let them build the defences in the first place. We're learning. The last battle I'm going to show you was a defensive IB that was placed against Berserkov in the south, so the field's different this time. The battle was actually led by Beric of the Hostiles, who I have been reliably informed, many times over, is not a part of Blue Team. Okay? They're not. We began by moving to the right and blocked their ascent onto the high ground. This would mean they couldn't take the high ground above the totem. This preliminary movement proved very important. This forced them into coming up the mountain in a blind spot where they couldn't see our infantry. I doubt this was deliberate, but I think it had the effect of them not seeing how small our infantry force was, because it was fucking tiny. We had a ton of cavalry that day, and they were separated into 2 wings. The freedom of movement this gave us made it so we didn't need to build on the totem site. We could keep the position above the pole, firing down on it. From what I'm told, our cavalry destroyed their horses, and with lancers just roaming through the centre of the area at will, just poking and skewering and popsicling whoever they wanted.
Scatter. Fences, left flank, fence, all infantry, go. All infantry are in. Push them off the ridge, push them off. Surround them. If you're standing in the back, all infantry back to the top. All infantry back to the top. All infantry.
I'm not gonna lie, as far as victories go, it was pretty damn comfortable. So, shout out to Beric, you get what you pay for with them. Okay, one victory don't make us conquerors, but at least we had reason to be optimistic now. It seemed like we were cracking the code a little. But then our war effort was stalled by some events of a political nature. See, while I was absent from life as feudal, a new mechanic was implemented where everyone could vote to elect a server-wide pope. The pope has the ability to excommunicate guilds for a day, send a server-wide message, and receive an indulgence that boosts your alignment by 5, even if your alignment is below -50, making you a criminal. In a characteristically throwaway burst of enthusiasm, I declared to my guildmates in TS that I needed this. I wasn't actually serious about it, but my general manager heard me and thought, yeah, that would be a great idea, and he put me forward as Bloodpack's representative for Pope. Before I knew it, I was climbing the table, reaching as high as 2nd place. For those who don't know, 1st place was basically dominated by a chap called Mighty, who was, and indeed is, the leader of TFA. At the beginning of a new week, when the poll got reset, I found myself, quite seriously, in the running to become Pope for one reason or another. And I won. I fucking won. I became Pope. Having never once seriously asked to be Pope. And then I was like, oh shit, I actually have to do this now. I didn't really know what to write, so I tried something conciliatory and attempted to excommunicate the false Jerusalem, but it was blocked by the cardinals. Okay, I didn't actually know at the time you could only make 1 poll per day. So when I typed in Sons of Odin, I was in fact seriously trying to excommunicate Mighty's guild. Now, before you get mad at me, I didn't think at the time it was that big a deal. It's a virtual pope virtually excommunicating a virtual guild. I didn't think anyone would care. I thought it would be funny if the new pope excommunicated the old pope. Luckily, as far as I know, no one outside of Bloodpact found out. See, I didn't know at the time people would be that cross about it, but I do now. Because the night after I lost the papacy back to Mighty, he then proceeded to write this message. He then followed this humdinger up by excommunicating Black Templars. Okay, so firstly, that's a joke at my expense. I can't exactly get annoyed about that kind of thing now, can I? Secondly, yeah, I was annoyed about the excommunication, but only so far as he'd beaten me to it. It was like, okay, you beat me, you little shit. But after this, I turned my computer off and went to the gym, and everyone called me a normie for my trouble. I got back about 2 hours later, and much had happened. See, I wasn't actually angry about what had happened, because it's just cattiness, and I was equally catty the day after. Excommunication means you all become criminals for a day, and people can kill you without alignment loss, but it's not like allies are suddenly going to start killing you, and there's not really such a thing as a neutral guild anymore. On paper and in practice, excommunication really means nothing. It's just power projection. So, yeah, I wasn't angry, but I'm not the one who makes all the decisions. And I was quite surprised at the ramifications of Mighty's message. Blood Pact broke. All communications and alliances with TFA. All their members left the discords. Nothing. Complete severing of ties. The general consensus behind this, from what I can glean, is they were tired of their shit. So, Red Team broke in half, and I was just sitting there in the middle of it,
Little old me. I didn't do nothing. I was just sitting there like, Mum, Dad, please stop fighting. So, Bloodpact fully separated from Red Team and changed a load of their faction tabards to white, forming the colloquially titled Snow Pact, or Soy Boys, or Aryan Nation. I don't think we've picked out a name yet, although it's probably going to stay Bloodpact just for the sake of simplicity and logos. So yeah, as I said earlier, I won the Pope the day after, wrote my catty comment, and successfully excommunicated La Madrigura, because that'll teach you to beat us in IBs, won't it? The day after that, I fucked up. Quite badly. We'd just been in an instance battle where we lost pretty hard to a vassal claim of Orden de Calatrava, so I thought, I know what'll cheer everyone up. If I excommunicate them. I won the papacy again, by 30 points this time, mind, and went looking for their master guild. So I hovered around the area and used my ignorance of Bloodpact members and also the current version of the game not having guild heraldry on the map at the time. I was initially unable to find the parent guild in the area until I hovered over here and thought immediately, ah, there they are. The more perceptive among you may have noticed, this is the wrong guild. I did not notice this at the time though, and excommunicated them. I was almost immediately messaged by various Bloodpact members telling me that La Orden were part of Bloodpact. I did not do this as a joke. I legitimately fucked up. I was so fucking embarrassed. Anyway, I was fortunate enough to finish the week as Pope without further incident, after which it was the decision of Bloodpact to share the position of Pope around the various guilds of the Alliance. That was the line I was given anyway. I personally think they were just trying to stop me from doing any more damage, which is fair enough if it's the case, mind. And at the time of writing, nothing more has happened on the diplomatic front. For now, at least, things have gone frigid in the north, and I'm not talking about the weather.
Cold War aside, though, we still had an enemy in the north to fight. That was the Spanish and the rest of Blue Team. I must have fought in dozens of battles up there. One day we'd be defending the barbarian claim down south, the next we'd be fighting outside Orden de Calatrava, the next day we'd be fighting outside La Madrigura, then they'd be fighting us outside of Freyaheim, we'd be defending new claims as they got built, trying to destroy their new claims, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing. It was arduous, it was protracted, and seemingly never-ending. We had a pretty good spread of success and failure in the field, but when it came to IBs, we got the shit kicked out of us. I must have participated in at least 10 different IBs, maybe more, maybe less. Apart from that first one and that one outside Berserkov, we did not win a single one against the Spanish. We won a few against Gardarica in the South Slavs, that's it. Which is part of the reason I was talking about all this tactical shit earlier, because that's how we were trying to address the problem. We were trying to address our collective. But I heard a piece of information from a leader in Bloodpact, which was the organisation of our enemy guilds during these battles is actually quite limited. A lot of them don't speak the same language, so to get past the language barrier, they give very simple orders. It's just attack, don't attack, attack the cap. It's very simple stuff. There is nothing in the way of coordination or fancy tactics used. So I have been told. And what does that tell you? They're just better fighters. We're getting outfought every single time. My GM speculates that part of that had something to do with the fact that when we were down in the south fighting the CS war out in the open, these guys were up here doing IBs. They have way more experience than us. It didn't seem to matter what we did. We tried organising the best of our fighters going into battles. We tried going with different compositions of men. We tried different tactics. We tried everything, but we couldn't get around the fact they were just better. It was the IBs that undid us. We just couldn't win. I wonder if this is how it felt to be a Stark. Feels bad. I think it had a lot to do with the consistent losses that resulted in the declining player base in Bloodpact. It was getting to the point where the Templars were fielding 3/4 of the men at times. It was getting a bit ridiculous. So a plan was hatched to merge the willing elements of Bloodpact and the Templars into a single guild and try and seek accommodation somewhere else. As a knight, I was involved in that decision. I passed my personal judgment on it, which is I am okay with the idea of a merger, provided Harold stays as Grand Master. He stays in charge. The thing is, Harold had been looking for a way out for a while now, because, you know, guild leadership is far more taxing than it should be. But it is. I haven't got a problem with anybody else taking over. I haven't got a problem with anybody in the Templars or Bloodpact for that matter. But the fact is, through the fall of CS, the decline of Jerusalem, the merging into the Templars, our falling out with TFA, the one common factor in all of that was Harold. He was the one that dragged us through. He was the one that kept us alive, where so many other guilds fell into ruin. I wish Scott, his successor, all the best of luck, but I'm going to take it as my cue to leave. Because personally, the interest hasn't been there for me either. So I'm not really inclined to deal with the uncertainty that comes with it. I have enjoyed my relatively brief stay in Avalon, but it's time to return to my home planet.